Hey legends, welcome to the Virtus Performance Podcast. It's nice to be back in the country. I've been gallivanting around South America for the last 6 or 7 weeks, so I'm finally back at work, back into the podcast chair. For all of you guys who listened to the 44 Days in South America podcast we did, would have been about 7-8 weeks ago now. This is a little bit of a sequel to that. It's a chat with myself and the great man Simon Cooper about how the last 7 weeks have gone from his perspective at Virtus, just running the show with the rest of the team while I was off on holiday, and how my holiday was and how the trip was and what my mindset was like throughout, what I did, what I learnt, the importance of things like time alone and then connecting with people from all around the world. So yeah, this is today's episode. Enjoy. If you are enjoying the podcast, please share, please subscribe. The more people we can get listening to this, the bigger it can get, and the cooler guests we can have on, and then we don't have to talk to Coop and me all the time. So enjoy. My personal and business goal is to be just a little bit better every day. I believe everyone, especially normal people, have a story to tell. The Virtus podcast exists to help us all find small ways of consistent improvement by discussing the journey and experiences of each of our guests. Simon Cooper.
Lachlan Wallace.
Mate. Back in business.
Good to have you back.
It's good to be back. It's nice to be home and back with the people I love, back in the places I love. But mostly it's nice to have coffee again.
Yeah, I bet. Coffee is the nectar.
I had 3 coffees for my whole, maybe 4 coffees in 7 weeks.
Wow. Where were they?
One was a delicious Nescafe blend.
Good.
That was the first and last time I'll have one of those. That was in Chile. That was a bad move. The second one was some filtered coffee before a trek in Peru.
Nice.
Not much better.
Okay.
The third one was managed in Bolivia, in La Paz, managed to find 2 coffee shops. One which did a delicious iced latte, which was actually an iced latte.
Good.
That was magical. And then managed to find another one which is called, I think it was called Higher Ground, which is run by a guy who used to live in Windsor. So I thought, you know what?
Right.
That's probably pretty good. So that was the closest I got to a regular coffee.
Nice.
In 7 weeks.
You would have thought that in South America, where a lot of our coffee is sourced from, you'd think they'd be all about it. But
yeah, well, I did a little bit of research trying to figure out if they use much of their own coffee, but it's a lot of American style coffee, where it's just
Starbucks style.
Lots of Americano coffees and their attempt at a latte, which is just
novel latte.
I don't know what it was, but yeah, it was very interesting. Being the coffee band was, I think, a little bit north of where we were. But that's it. What's been happening? How's home? How's home been?
Home life's been good. It's been a busy 6 weeks. I guess when you first took off, we took us probably a couple of weeks to kind of get into a rhythm where we were functioning as a team and everyone was sort of doing their own thing.
Yeah.
From a Virtus perspective.
Yeah.
Especially Mitch took off a couple of days after you, and that was a lot of coaching hours to pick up, a lot of back end stuff to
cover.
So that was a busy couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But Mitch coming back's been rad. He's been able to take a lot of the coaching as he does, which is he is a very hard worker.
Yeah, I think he did like 15 hours coaching yesterday or something like that. But
it's madness.
Good for Mitchie.
He's a good lad.
What do you think? Because I guess from a from a business point of view, but more so from a adding value to clients' point of view, what do you think was the biggest challenge of me not being there? And I don't say that in an arrogant way. Yeah. I guess just my role day to day is very much like overseeing how things are going and a little bit of coaching and checking in with clients and staff and things like that. So how did you go with the rest of the team in covering that?
Yeah, I think to everyone's credit, we picked up the slack that was left from you.
Yeah.
Not the slack, but picked up all of your role and all your tasks and managed it pretty well between all of us.
Definitely.
Everyone is fantastic in that they can manage themselves. So it's not as if
not that much had to change really. It was just a little bit of
coaching, a little bit of, I guess, communication and management, and I guess the higher minded thinking. All that stuff wasn't present, but day-to-day operations and day-to-day coaching, interaction with everyone. Yeah, that just was business as normal.
It seemed like from the outside, which is weird to say, from like that helicopter view out of the bubble.
Yeah,
that day-to-day ran really well.
Yeah, and I think all the clients and everyone at Virtus was still super happy. Everyone was coming in, training hard, leaving with a smile on their face. So I don't think there was that much that really changed.
That's good. That's very, very good. And it's nice to be able to, like, as a business owner, it's nice to be able to know that your team has your back and I can leave and leave everyone in your hands and them get probably a better service, to be honest. Without me. It's good because I guess, like, our mission is really simple. It's just to make the world a better place one person at a time, and to know that that's spread from me to all of you guys and it happens daily. It's a magical feeling.
Well, that's why everyone's part of this amazing team that we've got, because they share the same vision.
Definitely.
Everyone has their different approaches and everyone has their different ethos, but at the end of the day, it comes back to the same reason. Right?
Yeah, definitely. It was an interesting feeling because the first 2 weeks or so, like not being at work, for anyone that knows me, I like being at work and I like doing things. And I like, one of the things I realised, I guess we'll talk about epiphanies a little bit later. One of the things I realised is I try and do way too many things at once.
Yeah.
I if I should be doing 3 things, I'll try and do 6, and it will mean that 6 things don't get done as well. But I realised like 2 weeks in, first 2 weeks I was in kind of holiday mode, just getting disconnected from work and from home.
The novelty of being away, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly, and just exploring a new part of the world, trying to learn how to order dos cervezas.
Ooh. Dos? Do you mean quattros?
What? 2 at a time, mate. Trying to learn how to say please and thank you and things like that in Spanish. It was that was the focus for the first couple of weeks, but I think it was about maybe 2.5 weeks in, maybe 3 weeks in, when we were a little bit of travel, a little bit of time on buses where I got a little bit stir crazy and I'm like, I need to be doing something.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I was talking to a lot of different people who were traveling for different reasons, and James and I were probably the only 2 that were running a business and traveling at the same time, which was really interesting, and it made me realise that, I don't know, one of the realizations I came to later on in the trip was that most people that travel for, I'd say, more than 5-6 weeks are usually running away from something more so than having something to come back to, if that makes sense. So a lot of people quitting jobs, leaving after study because they don't know what they want to do, traveling the world. Like, obviously everyone who's traveling the world loves travel and loves that freedom and those experiences and that connection of meeting new people. But one of the things I realised, and I don't know how I got onto this tangent, but one of the things I realised that very few people who I met were excited to get home, or as excited to get home as I was and James were.
100%. I think you definitely left from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Like, you are going away to almost give yourself a break from work rather than escaping.
Escape it. Yeah, definitely. 2 weeks in, I was like, all right, I'm ready to go back.
Yeah.
And about 4 weeks in, I was pulling my hair out, going, okay, I really need to get home to everyone. But
how much time do you think you spent on Virtus?
On Virtus,
while you were away?
I probably did something that was related to Virtus, development of Virtus, development of, I guess, my personal brand, or development of myself as a coach or as a leader, I guess, every day.
Yeah.
Not so much like if I listen to a business podcast, I think of that as development for those things. So
take something from everything you consume.
Yeah, I guess my mindset while I was away, which I kind of, after the first couple of days of being stir crazy with not being able to do work stuff, was, you know what, I'm just going to just be present and do what I want to do in that moment. So if it's going to the bar and drinking 15 beers and winning beer pong tournament, then that's what I want to do. If it's sitting there writing a blog post for Virtus or a blog post for my website, or just a journal entry as to what I've learned that day or how I felt that day, then I'll do it. If it's sitting there listening to music, if it's listening to an audio book, if it's talking and connecting to people, then I just wanted to take it with whatever I felt like was right at the time. So I didn't want to force anything.
Awesome.
And there was definitely a couple of days where I wouldn't do any work stuff, and then go, you know what, I want to lock myself in the hostel. And I took, like, I was kind of tossing up before I left whether I take my laptop and what books I take and things like that. And I ended up not using my laptop all that much, but it was nice to be able to jump on
when you wanted to.
Yeah, catch up on emails, or at least
chat on Skype or something.
Yeah, chat with you guys on Skype, or chat with our coaches, or whatever it may be. So yeah, not too much. And I think it was really interesting because some of my coaches beforehand were like, I was like, what work can I do over there, or what work should I focus on over there? And it was definitely a lot more big picture stuff. It was a lot more how does it look being out of the bubble, which travel
you're
does that.
removed from the day-to-day small picture stuff.
Yeah.
So you can start looking at the big picture.
Yeah.
Start looking at what Virtus looks like from the outside, where it's going.
Which is a weird thing to do after being I guess
it's the first time you've done it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's the first time I've done it like that. Like, I've had a week or two holidays, but I think when you get to the 3-4 week mark, you're really properly disconnected, and you're in a headspace where you can think about things and like helicopter over it rather than being in it. And I was like, anyone that read my my 44 Days in South America blog that's on my website will I think you can see a pattern of how my mindset is, because there was a time where I was just probably talking about what we were doing, and then what we're experiencing, what was coming up, and the people we were meeting, and then it moved into what was happening at home and what I was looking forward to and things like that. So it was a really interesting experience, and something that I would like for any business owner or anyone that's in a job that they love or in a job that they don't love. It's a really good eye opener to see, one, how different parts of the world live, and how, I don't know if insignificant's the right word, but how or meaningless, insignificant maybe, as to what we're actually doing. Like
small cogs in a big machine.
Yeah, like even just to sit on a plane that's going, I actually don't know how fast a plane goes, but hundreds of kilometers an hour, like sitting in there for 10 hours going over, basically flying halfway around the world, or 15 hours actually.
Yeah.
Basically flying halfway around the world to be put in a place where there's thousands, millions of people living their lives with absolutely like zero understanding about what's happening on the other side of the world. Like
everyone's living their own independent lives where they're the center of their universe.
And it kind of, I really enjoy that insignificance, because it makes you feel like when things are bad, they're not going to stay bad, and when things are, or even when things are good, they're not going to stay good, and it doesn't matter either way. Like, it allows you to be, for me, it allows me to be both an observer of my reality, but also understand that you have the power or you have the control over what you do and who you are.
Do you think that it also gives you an insight into everything that you do being insignificant?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I love the feeling of insignificance, because I think when if you feel significant and feel like the center of the universe, then every little mistake, every little fuck up, every little problem you have feels like the end of the world. Whereas because of that, you have that, I guess, anxiety or stress around it being like the world, the walls are crumbling down around me.
Yeah.
But when you feel that insignificance, you realize that, like you said, we're little cogs in a giant. We're little cogs in a medium machine of a big machine of a giant machine of the interaction of some people I had in like places like Chile and Peru, where you start to learn what, like, people say, where are you from in Spanish? I can't remember what it is, and you say Australia, and they're like, oh, Australia, kangaroo, and like that's it. That's all they know. Like
kangaroos in the Sydney Opera House, right?
Yeah, basically, and it's just like we live in such a, I'd say, secluded part of the world. Like border crossings is something that we get to experience. I don't think. I've done a couple like in Southeast Asia, but apart from that, it's all been at airports. So I guess that's not what a border crossing really is. So going from, say, Peru into Bolivia and Bolivia into Brazil and Brazil into Argentina, and seeing like maybe what you call grassroots border crossings where like day-to-day people just need to get across to work or to see family or whatever. That idea in Australia, we're kind of separate from it because we don't have any borders, that there's two not completely different, but two fairly different cultures living across a river or across a gated border crossing. And it's like, it's I don't know, I had a real problem looking at it and going, this is an imaginary line. And if you're born 100 metres this side, you're Bolivian. If you're born 100 metres that side, you're Brazilian. And that
shapes your identity, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it does. Like that idea of patriotism and national pride and things like that. I think that like it's such a dangerous, unnecessary part of human existence. And I guess we all want to belong, and I understand that, and we all want to have that community and things like that, but I think we can have that community without that line.
I guess that's developed through different people and different cultures having varying views on things, right?
Definitely.
So they decide that my view is different from your view, so we're going to chuck up a wall in between us.
Separate it. And it's like some of these lines are where they are and what they are because of explorers drawing lines on maps and things like that. And it's just like there is a lot of controversy now. I don't know how current it is, but I think they like Chileans don't like Peruvians and Peruvians don't like Bolivians in certain circles because it's Peru, Bolivia, and like they've had border or controversy around who owns this area and things like that. And I think Bolivia used to go to the ocean. I don't know which ocean's on that side. Anyway, to the ocean, and now it doesn't. So they've lost beach access more or less, and now there's like big hoo-ha about that and like.
I'll go to the beach.
Yeah, that's exactly. Well, like the arguments, proper arguments. Like I thought it was a joke, but it's proper arguments that the Chileans have with the Peruvians around who invented pisco. And like
does it matter?
But it doesn't, right? It's a delicious beverage that is the devil, and really, really dangerous if you've had a couple of beers and you want something sweeter. It's mate, I don't know. One night was stupid on it, but anyway. But like just I think it was *Sapiens* that Yuval Noah Harari talks about it, and a border is just a made up thing that enough people agree with, so it's a thing. Does that make sense? And I think like as soon as we we've been segregating ourselves as human beings between tribes for forever, which creates conflict. But now in an age of globalization and connection between, while I was away in Bolivia with crappy Wi-Fi, I was still able to call home and things like that.
It's more connected than we've ever been.
I think it'd be really interesting to see, to be able to get to be able to get like a really cool look into the future as to what borders and countries look like. Yeah. Because like I understand the need for governance on a larger level, and then a smaller like city like area suburb level, and then on a country level. But I don't know, it just seems like those borders or those boundaries aren't necessary anymore. And like I'm not naive enough to think that world peace or anything like that is possible, because I don't think it is, because we're naturally drawn to conflict, I think.
We'll look at like North and South Korea. I don't know a lot about that really, but
aren't they friends now?
Apparently.
Yeah.
And it's old mate Donald's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, since World War II basically. Yeah. They've been segregated. And they've been separate.
And you hear stories about like them like having like half a day to go and visit their relatives in South Korea, and leaving in tears and not being able to see each other again. Like things like that is so interesting, that it's here's the line, it's us versus you versus me, or it's us versus them. And I found
such difference between cultures as well.
Yeah, and like that, it's not a thing unless everyone agrees on it, or like the majority of people agree on it. Which is really interesting. So like I don't know, I don't know enough about global politics to have this discussion properly, but it's a really, I just find it a really interesting thing. And like I think it was in Sapiens as well, he talks about borders, but he talks about money as well. Like money is just it's paper or plastic or whatever, thing, and that's something that everyone agrees, well, this has value, I can buy this with this, so this meal is worth X amount or whatever.
And currencies fluctuate, they go up and down depending on what everyone decides it's going to be worth that day. Yeah. Or what gold is going to be worth that day.
Yeah.
It's really interesting with like cryptocurrencies coming in now, and like how does someone decide how much a Bitcoin's worth?
Yeah, exactly. Like was what the broader consensus is and what everyone.
And essentially, it has no application at this point. No. You can't go to the supermarket and buy something with a Bitcoin or any other sort of cryptocurrency. So it's really like interesting technology is coming to the forefront. Definitely. That's going to start to define how we transact and how we do.
I think it'll be really interesting, and I hope it happens that we get to the point where we have decentralized currency, because then the powers that be, whether it be governments or big corporations and things, will have less of a say on what things are worth, and it's becomes more of a decision on what things are actually worth, and the value of different, I guess, commodities and activities and things like that. Because to see, like we say we're the lucky country, and I think everyone who lives in Australia, and especially in our corner of the world down the Mornington Peninsula, like we know we're lucky. But then when you actually go out and see how the rest of the world lives, like it's triple, tenfold what you actually think it is, how lucky we actually are. Like some of the
I started reading Shantaram, which I just read, and first couple of pages, he's the main character, or the storyteller, is driving into Bombay in India and slums like for miles. And definitely. How can this be allowed in today's day and age, where some are so wealthy yet others have nothing to their name?
It's horrible, but
hour to hour.
It's really interesting. And if you guys, for those listening, haven't read Shantaram, it's one of the ones that I've been told to read multiple times for probably 12 months, and I've finally found one in a hostel in El Calafate in Patagonia about 4 days before I left, and started reading it, got stuck in, and decided not to talk to anyone for 3 days in between my tours.
A 1,000-page book.
Yes.
And how long did it take you to finish?
6 days, 7 days. Yeah. But I did have a plane ride and some time in that. But this is a book that isn't it's an incredible story. Like everything that happens and the people and the experiences is an amazing story. But the ability of Gregory David Roberts, I think is his name, to paint a picture and give you a really good sensory feel that you're in there and you're part of the story is magical. And I saw it was kind of cool to read about a different country, but so much of it was because obviously about India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, things like that. It's really interesting to see those same living conditions and those same class systems in different countries, because I guess South America isn't necessarily third world, but parts of it probably would be considered. The one thing that I found probably most shocking is because I guess poverty exists everywhere in the world. No one country is necessarily immune to poverty.
Oh.
But to see some of the slums in, say, Lima in Peru, where lots of the population have come down from the mountains to try and get work in the city, and they haven't been able to find it. So from the airport, and this is early on in a trip, a week into our trip, from the airport to where we stayed in Miraflores, which is I guess one of the more affluent parts of Lima. It's just slums slums, and you just see houses that are made out of any kind of material they can find. And they're smiling and laughing and having and seemingly having a really happy existence. And then you're 10 minutes down the road and you see high rises and nice houses and things like that. And then the last day we left Lima was probably the biggest contrast. They took us up to one of the viewpoints and drove literally through the slums to get up there.
Right.
And you look down, and I'll try and find a photo of it. I think I took one, but there was basically you could see that one street separated the slums that are basically probably power in maybe a third of them, and probably not much running water and things like that, to the affluent part of that neighbourhood that overlooks the beach. That's kind of what you'd expect to see. Maybe for anyone that's been in Geelong, it looks fairly similar with the bay and all the boats, and then all of the really nice houses, but one street over would be slums. So that was pretty mind blowing, and to see and to hear about their daily wage and week or monthly wage, which is our daily wage. It's insane, and they met a lot of Peruvian locals, and they're saving to buy the basic things that we take for granted. And I guess we're able to go into their country as tourists. And obviously we can look at it as that's a negative thing, but we're building up their economy to a point.
True.
And it's almost imperative to a lot of the tour guides and
it's almost
taxi drivers and things.
A bit of a sense of guilt of walking around with all this money in your pocket. And to them that would be a fortune.
That's it.
For a month or a year.
I complain about running out of money, and it was a very, I guess, Western privileged complaint because
first world problems.
That's exactly it. I ran out of money to a point in the fact that I was expecting to have a lot more left over when I got home, but the money I did have left in my bank account probably would have sustained a family of 4 for a month or 2 months or whatever. So I think it's a really interesting one. It's something that I don't think there'll ever be true equality across much of the world, but I think the more we're able to create, and I think the governance systems, whether it be Australia or America or the bigger powers, I think that's I can see that changing. I don't know how. I don't understand it well enough to know how, but I can see it changing over the next a couple of 100 years if we make it that long to be one of those, to be a lot less one guy's in charge, and the corruption, I guess, is prevalent in every country. But it was really interesting to hear about, like, Bolivia is a very, very rich country, but it seemed like the poorest country being in there, because there's so much corruption, and the people running the country are the ones. So it's like that. 90% of the wealth goes to 1% of the population. Like, it was really, really evident in places like Bolivia and parts of Brazil, and just
I think with the rise of technology and globalization and connectiveness, that will enable a lot more people to become connected and be able to create a living through these new technologies. For example, with, like, I'm doing a bit of research on blockchain at the moment. Which is, I don't know too much about it, but essentially it's a technology which acts as like a distributed ledger. So rather than our transactions going through a third party, being a bank, and then going to the buyer, it just goes through this technology and allows people to interact directly. So, for example, if a farmer in Bolivia wants to sell coffee or whatever, their livestock, to someone in Australia, they could essentially transact with each other directly.
That's super cool.
And the use of smart contracts and all that sort of thing will change the way that we transact. And it has a lot more applications beyond just financial as well.
Definitely.
So this technology being developed will basically change the world.
Which is really cool.
It's awesome.
Which will be huge, because like don't want to talk about banks for very long, but the amount of money I would have paid in ATM fees and transaction fees, but it's like the only way to do it at the moment.
It's a system that's
it's a system that's there to make money for banks, and
definitely
it's not an accident that CBA posts billions of dollars profit every year and things like that. And it's one of those things that blockchain will end up being a solution to that problem. It's just, how long does it take, and
how long does it take to implement? What are the regulations and the governance around it? Because it's so new, there's nothing to regulate it.
But it's one of those things that's going to probably take a long time to actually happen, because all of the big banks and all of the people that have the money and have the power at the moment don't want to lose it, so they're going to do everything they can to stop it from happening. It's the same thing as Big Pharma over in the US trying to stop marijuana legalization. They just pump money behind it because it's going to cost them money.
Same as, we're sort of jumping around a bit, but there was a documentary, or not a documentary, but Four Corners on ABC ran a program the other day on the obesity epidemic in Australia and how sugar is largely responsible for that. And a lot of the food industry and sugar farmers don't want to regulate this. They don't want to create a sugar tax, because that will take away from the billions of dollars that the food industry bring in every year.
And yet money talks, right?
Money talks. And yet our population, 60% of people are overweight compared to 20% in the 80s. It's madness.
It's mind-blowing. And I think that's, you talk about insignificance before, and we're trying to change the world and make the world a better place on such a small scale in the scheme of things, that all of those big decisions that are made above our heads and things that we don't have any control over, at all, they affect what people are eating and what people are consuming on a broader scale, which effectively push against what we're doing. And I think it's really easy to get bogged down in that.
Be discouraged.
But at the end of the day, control what you can control.
Exactly. And it's all
do the best you can.
The little deeds and little bits of goodness in the world that just add up. And eventually the we can apply pressure to the food industry and to the big dogs who make all the decisions.
Definitely.
To start making the world, to shaping the world into what we want it to be and to where it benefits everyone.
Yeah, and I think it shows like how important it is to stand up with what you believe in. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to make a difference straight away. Like, for example, like Anna will stand up against takeaway coffee cups and takeaway straws to the nth degree because it's something she believes in. And she may not be able to change the world like from day dot just by doing that herself, but that inspires more people to do it. Exactly. And then eventually people power will win out. And I think
realistically you can't change the world. A single person can't change the world, but they have the power to influence others around them.
Correct. And create a movement which can, and I think that's the important thing, that you look at, I guess, poverty over there and things like that, and we can make a really, really, really small change, but you make 100,000 of those small changes and things start to change for the better. And I think I'm an eternal optimist, so I think the world is like, we live in the best time that we could ever be alive in terms of like safety and affluence and things like that, but it's just a matter of how do we make things better and more improved and more progressive.
How can we use everything that we have available to us to improve our own welfare and the welfare of our society?
Yeah, definitely. And I think travel just opens your mind up to all of those problems, and you get out of your bubble and you go, well, maybe I'm not that important. Maybe the universe
gives you an amazing perspective on your life, like what you want to be doing moving forward and where you're at.
Yeah, and it made me really. I got really introspective, I guess, over the journey of the 45 days I was away all up.
Yeah.
And it allowed me time just to be. I spent a lot of time by myself, especially the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It allowed just to get into my head and actually start thinking about what was important to me and what I loved about home and what I didn't love about home, and what were the things that, like, what are the holes in my like ideal life, so to speak, and what are the things I want for the rest of my life, and what am I actually going to do to start moving towards it.
Cool. What was the biggest thing introspectively that you learned about yourself?
The biggest thing introspectively that I learned about myself was probably just understanding my patterns and getting a fair idea of who I am, because 2 weeks in I was very aware that I was missing work and home and all the people a lot. And I probably overcompensated a little bit by trying to do too much day to day, like get up, go for a run, and then meditate, and then go out for lunch and go to a tour, and it was just go. And I realised that I probably I'm always going to be the kind of person that wants to go and wants to do too much. But I think the biggest epiphany I had was that if I don't get enough sleep, if I don't eat well enough, if I don't hydrate, if I don't look after myself, then all of those things I want to do will never accumulate to anything other than me burning myself out and getting tired. And I think there's times where we've got to, sprint at something, work too hard on something, but there's times where we need to chill out. And I had coffee with my sister this morning, and she said, "You look a lot different now to when you left." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, the last 2 weeks it was like you were 1,000, like your head was in 1,000 places at once." And she's like, it seems like you're here now." And I'm like, "It's how I feel."
Cool.
Which was really, really interesting, because I felt like I was trying to maybe plug holes over and over again before I left. And now I feel like, obviously 6 weeks on holiday is going to give you that perspective, but now I feel like whatever happens, I'm okay with it, because I love the person I'm becoming. I love what I do, like spending time with you guys and our clients and friends and family and KP, and I love the life I live, and I'm so lucky to have the life I live, and I'm so lucky to have the, want and desire to improve and grow, but at the same time I'm so content with what I have and who I am. I think that was the big realization.
Cool.
The kind of like, I am enough, but I still want to keep improving.
Yeah.
What was
Awesome.
What was your big lesson? Because I guess you're studying a master's and you took on a big chunk of the load at Virtus, and obviously got a lovely better half to spend time with, and family and friends.
Yeah.
How did you go balancing it all and juggling everything?
Well, I think that was the biggest realization for me, balance.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have lots of things pulling us in different directions. Work, family, loved ones. We want to spend time doing things that we want to be doing and that we love doing, and at the same time giving ourselves rest.
Yeah.
I think the first couple of weeks that you're away was hectic, and I had to rein myself in sometimes and actually give myself some rest.
Yeah.
Because I was just getting cooked.
Yeah.
And the last few weeks I kind of took a step back a little bit. I realised that Virtus didn't need me there 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to focus a bit more on my studies. I'm still finding the balance. I think even with you back, it's hard to get the balance of...
It's been 3 days, mate. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. These all good things take time, right?
That's it. Yeah, but I think sometimes you do get a little bit of a kick up the bum about, and get reminded about what you need to feed more of your energy into.
Yeah.
And I think it was a good experience in managing my time and managing my energy.
Yeah.
And giving it to the things that needed to be given.
Definitely.
Our coaches gave us an activity to do where we had to rate our different parts of our lives.
Yeah.
I think we might have talked about this in another podcast, maybe. But
go again.
I really like it. I've done
what was it called?
The
Star Matrix, yeah?
Star Matrix?
Yeah, something like that. It is now.
It's a 5-pointed star, and each point represents a different facet of your life. 5 are health, wealth, career, relationships, and environment.
If you're not driving, grab a pen, draw a star, and write health, wealth, career, environment, and relationships on each point.
And then we're asked to rate each of those out of 5, with 1 being bad and 5 being the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
Or 5 being good. And it's interesting, I've done it probably 3 times, I think. The first time was we did a bit of a PD at Virtus, and overall I got 18.
Out of 25, it's pretty good.
Out of 25, which is pretty good. I was this is in February, so 3 months ago now, and health and wealth were my 2 lowest. So pick your 2, if you've done this activity, pick your 2 lowest scores and create 3 actions to improve that. And if we improve on these facets of our life, then let's say if I increase my health from a 2 to a 5, then I might find that all the other points will increase as well. If I'm feeling better with my health, then automatically I'll be able to focus more on my career, and I'll be able to feed my energy into other things.
I think it's really interesting because I think most people who would do it, who are in the, whether it's a service industry, whether it's any industry like the health industry where you're looking after other people, or being a teacher, there's a really, really good chance that the thing you're trying to drive with your clients or with your students or whatever is the one thing you're lacking at. And it's something that the more we do things like this, the more we realise as coaches that we are always the last person we give our time, attention, energy, resources to, which is a little counterproductive, because if I'm trying to give my energy to my clients or my friends or my family and I don't give anything to me, I'm going to be cactus, and I'm going to be super tired. And I think mine was very similar. My health and wealth were were much lower than they should have been, because I spend all my time worried about other people. But I think if I can focus on, and like you're probably the same, if you can focus on those little things you need to do to look after your health, then everything else gets easier, like you said. Coop and I and Jess a couple of days ago, we've been talking about minimums for a little while and hitting our minimums daily. And what we've done is we've put down the 6 areas of our lives that we want to improve at the moment. And we've put a minimum behind each one, a objective measure that we can look at the end of the day and say, have I hit this or have I not? And because we as humans don't like losing things, we've put a $5 wager for each one for each day behind it. So if we stuff up, we could possibly lose $30 a day.
Incentive not to.
Yes, it's an incentive just to tick the boxes and hit the minimum. So the 6 things that we identified are things that we need to hit to look after ourselves before we can start looking after other people. Our hydration, so we want to hit 3 litres of water a day. Our sleep, so we want to hit 5 sleep cycles a day, which is 7.5 hours. So sleep cycle is usually about 90 minutes. And if we don't hit the 7.5 hours overnight, we can get an extra point for that sleep cycle by hitting a 30-minute nap throughout the day. So last night we had the Small Business Awards where Common Folk got up. Good from them. But we finished... Shout out.
Good
but we finished up quite late, and I got about 6.5 hours sleep. So I have to have a 30-minute nap today to catch up. We're running out of days, so I better get on that. We've got 30 minutes of movement per day, so it doesn't have to be a big session. It just has to be some sort of movement, whether it's mobs or walking or footy training or something along those lines. 3 big meals per day, or 3 proper meals per day, good whole foods. 20 minutes of meditation, which I've got to catch up on today too. I got a busy afternoon. And create or consume 1 piece of content. So whether we write something, whether we produce a podcast, whether we we ticked one off. Good.
Yes.
Whether we read something, read 30 pages of a book, or read an article online, or watch a video.
Yes. Or something like that.
Something that's going to help improve us in some way. And they're the 6 things. So we're going to be holding ourselves accountable to it, and holding each other accountable to it. And it's funny, like we've only been doing it 3 days, so we'll see how we go over the next 5, 6, 7 weeks. But
we've put a consequence behind not doing them.
Yeah.
So I've been hyper aware of how much water I've been drinking, and yesterday I didn't hit my meditation, so I owe $5. And
yes.
Damn it! But it's made me set time aside throughout my day today to actually do it.
Definitely.
And these minimums all feed yourself.
Yeah.
If you serve yourself, then you can help. You can also serve others.
Yeah, definitely.
We use the analogy, fill your cup.
Yeah.
If we can fill our cup, then we can pour our energy into others.
Spot on. And like yesterday, I didn't have a training session booked, so I chucked headphones in and listened to a podcast and did 15 minutes of mobs, and then went for a walk for half an hour. And just it was 45 minutes of my day, but I felt amazing afterwards. And that kind of led into me being up and about for a couple of meetings I had, and just being that happy, outgoing person. And I think it's for, like, most of us are in this industry are here because we like to help people, and we're usually those bubbly, somewhat extroverted personalities. If we're not extroverted, we tend to have to be in our environment. And when we're not hitting those minimums, we lose that happiness and that joy and that bubbliness that brings everyone else up. And I think it's really obvious, and like there's definitely, I'm sure most of my team could tell you, there's certainly times in the past where I've been like grumpy or shitty or tired or short with them when it's only because I wasn't looking after myself.
I think the biggest thing for you, I just thought about this then, is that when you're not feeding yourself, you aren't present with those around you.
100%.
And we can tell.
Yeah.
But that's just keeping each other accountable.
Yeah.
Like if we can see that Lachie's not being present with us, or
dude, how are you sleeping, or how's your food been, or
as simple as asking a question.
But it's knowing each other. Like, I'm sure they won't mind me throwing them under the bus, but like Jess and Maddie are two incredibly hard workers, and both of them just like they're like, I feel tired all the time, and I'm like, well, when was the last time you gave yourself a day for you? And like, well, I don't have one. And I think it's really important for everyone, no matter what you do, to have a day during the week, whether it be 2 afternoons or whether it be like a Sunday or something where you look after yourself. And it might, like, looking after yourself doesn't have to be sitting on the couch watching Netflix, eating popcorn. It can be going for a walk with your loved ones, or it can be going for a run and going out for a coffee, or sitting and reading your book for a few hours, or whatever. But when you're aware, when you're hyper aware of those things, that makes it so much easier.
Definitely. I think something that I've been trying to do these last few weeks is give myself a full day off. Whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday. Where I don't do any work, I don't do any study, I do any sort of errands or chores that I need to do, and the rest of my time is serving myself or serving my relationships. So Sally Ann and I this weekend we're planning on having an afternoon together. We've been, I mean, getting a balance between uni and work, and if you can't get that balance right, which is super hard to do, then.
And it's never going to be like, it's always fluid. Like, it's never going to be locked in. Like,
one week you'll be really good, the next one you'll be.
And even you can have a good day and then a shitty day, but that doesn't matter. Like, I think too many people beat themselves up when they have a crap day or where they don't get as much done as they were expecting. And it's like, I definitely have in the past, but my kind of mantra now is just to take it as it comes. And if I need to do something, if something's really, really urgent, it'll pop up in front of my face, and I'll remember. And if it's not super urgent and it's on a to-do list and I haven't done it in a week, it's probably not super important.
That reset button is super important. At the end of the day, resetting and accepting that.
Best reset 7 weeks on holiday in South America.
No, I might get on.
Well, you've booked your next holiday.
I have. Sally Ann and I heading to Bali.
Nice.
In a month or so.
Treat yourself.
Yeah, which is super exciting. So
good. I think it's if you're listening and haven't booked a holiday, book it.
Book it, yes.
Shoot, nice. I think if anyone's wanting to go to South America or thinking about it, I would highly recommend it. If you have any questions, thoughts, or queries around what to do or where to go, I ended up going to Chile, Peru, Bolivia, Brazil, and Argentina, actually I went to Uruguay for a day too. Treat yourself.
Nice.
Which in 45 days is a lot of moving, a lot of ticking the legs over. So there's definitely a few things I would do differently in terms of where I would stay longer or what places I would skip. So if anyone has any questions or just ask, send me an email, send me a message. I think South America is one of those places where like it's not as accessible to us because it's a fairly expensive flight and things like that, and we're kind of told that you need to book tours and need to like lock things in before you go. But I found the complete opposite. I think you can go buy a plane ticket in, make sure you've got your visas you need for the places you want to go, and you can basically wing everything, which we managed to do pretty well.
I reckon it's a pretty good way of doing it. Just booking your plane tickets, booking your first couple of nights, because plans always change, don't they?
Yeah, and that's it. And I'm so happy that we didn't book out. Like before we went, we booked flight in, an internal flight from Chile to Peru, and flight out, and that was it.
Awesome.
And I didn't have any visas organised or anything like that. But I figured, if I want to go to Brazil, I'll make it work. And we did.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
What do you think are Well, give us a couple of highlights from the trip. Give us top 5.
Top 5. This is one answer, but a really, really obvious one is things like Machu Picchu and Iguazu Falls. I think it's really easy to look at places like that and kind of go, well, they're probably really touristy and really overhyped and too expensive and things like that. But I kind of found the opposite. Like, yes, they're very touristy and lots of tourists flock there, but there's a reason for it. And I think it's like Machu Picchu is one of those places you go to and it just blows your socks off. Like, I remember I didn't get to sleep till about 4 a.m. the next morning when we got back to Cusco after doing it, because I was so like just on a high. Like, it was a really strange feeling, because I'm like, well, I can't sleep. God, it was a good day. Like, it was just one of those perfect days. You stand at the top and you're in this, like, on top of this peak and looking at this like little ancient civilization that was built 500 years ago on top of a mountain, with the sun shining and like valleys around you, and it's just super cool. You think there's no way that a place like this can live up to the hype, and it does very, very quickly.
Do you think it's because of the contrast between where we live day to day and
100%.
that
100%. Like, that wasn't like Machu Picchu isn't super high. Like, I think it's like 3,000 meters above sea level, which is
I could jump that far.
Yeah, true. Which compared to Mornington is like 30 meters above sea level. But yeah, that and Iguazu Falls were two moments I had where I just stood there and just went, whoa! Like, it wasn't just like a wow and a keep moving. Like, it was like a stand there and like try and take it all in, and your brain struggles to comprehend how wonderful it is. So being on Machu Picchu and meditating on top of Machu Picchu was a very, very cool feeling. Iguazu Falls, staring at the just massive water going down over the rapids, was just like, your brain can't comprehend it.
Do you know how, like, what the volume of water is that maybe goes over?
I don't, but here's the wonderful thing about Google. Volume of water over. Yeah, it's something. What is it?
So you went from the Argentinian side.
I went to both sides. So one of the other highlights was I was travelling with James, as most of you guys will know if you listened to the podcast a few weeks ago. Travelling with James the first maybe 3.5 weeks, and then he wanted to go to the jungle and I wanted to go south. So we left each other at La Paz, and I went down and did the salt flats in Uyuni. And then spent the next 4 or 5 days traveling through Bolivia to the Brazilian border, from the Brazilian border into the country a little bit, and then down the western side to Iguazu Falls.
Cool.
Which, that was a highlight in itself, because I was by myself. I didn't speak Portuguese. I spoke very little Spanish to get to the Brazilian border. At the end of my Bolivian journey, and I literally didn't speak English to anyone for maybe 3.5 days.
Wow.
More than 2 or 3 words, and pointing and smiling and just trying to use body language to get me through, which was a challenge and something that I'll never forget, how much I enjoyed that experience, and just being by myself and having that solitude and having that time to just not talk to anyone, just be by myself. Cool. So I went to the Brazilian side of Iguazu Falls, and my mind was blown. And then the next day, crossed the border to the Argentinian side and thought, no way, yes, they can be topped. And it topped it, and then some. Like, it was just epic. This is probably too big of a number to actually comprehend. During the rainy season, November to March, the rate of flow of water going over the falls may reach 450,000 cubic feet per second.
What? Cubic feet per second?
Yeah, that's a lot. 12,750 cubic meters per second. That's a huge number. It's probably too big to comprehend, but just staring just go there. It's one of those things that I saw it, and I think I sent James a message, and I'm like, mate, whatever you do, don't miss this. It's just insane. So that was the highlight. Highlight number 2. Oh, this is going to take forever. Patagonia, I finished I love mountains. I love hiking. I love just being immersed in nature. And Patagonia is probably the reason I wanted to go to South America in the first place. And there was a point in time where we weren't going to make it to Patagonia because of time constraints, but I made the decision maybe halfway through the trip that I was going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I went down to I didn't get down to Torres del Paine, which is just across the, anyone knows Patagonia, just across the Chilean border, because it's kind of, Patagonia is down the middle of both Chile and Argentina. And I didn't get down to Torres del Paine, which is where some of the longer hikes are, because I was running out of time. But I went to a little town called El Chaltén, which is at the base of the Mount Fitzroy mountain range, which anyone that knows the brand Patagonia, that's the peak on the logo.
That's really cool.
And spent a couple of days at El Calafate, which was a couple of hours south, which is where we flew into from Buenos Aires, or where I flew into. That was a highlight because it was foggy, rainy, like wet and snowing for most of the days I was hiking.
How good.
Which was miserable in a way but magical in another. Like, I didn't get to see the peak of Mount Fitzroy at all,
right.
Which was, I saw a big chunk of it but didn't get to see the top, which was disappointing, but at the same time it made it for a really exciting experience because the fog gave it this really weird mystique, and the snow was like covering the trees, and it's autumn now coming. Like, I think Torres del Paine's closed now because of the wet weather. The colours of the trees were like nothing I've ever seen before. There were reds and oranges and greens and yellows and no blues, but all these different coloured trees, and you're just walking through it and you think Patagonia, okay, it's just going to be desolate with mountains, but there's so many different, I guess, landscapes that you walk through.
Yeah.
And I got to spend 6 nights, 5 days hiking in El Chaltén, just doing all of the long hikes. And
so were they just day hikes? Or
just day hikes, yeah. I tried to... I'm probably lucky that I wasn't able to find one, but I couldn't find a tent. All of the higher places, because it's end of season, were done hiring, and they're like, no, we're not hiring anymore out. And then tried to find in our hostels, in one of the bigger hostels, trying to find someone I could borrow a tent off, and ended up finding one like day and a half before I left. I'm like, you know what, I'm probably not going to do an overnight hike now because it's snowing and 2 degrees. But it was really good to be able to go do those day hikes and just escape. And I met some really cool people in there, even though I was trying to not talk to anyone for a couple of nights because I just wanted to be by myself. But
that's cool.
I ended up having dinner on Israeli Independence Day, having dinner with 25 Israelis, which was super cool. Like, I met a couple of English guys who we did a couple of hikes together, and it was just a really good experience. And like, that's a place where I've unfinished business in Patagonia. I'll definitely go back there. I think it'd be very cool to get a crew of 4 or 5 or as many as we can get to go over and hike together. And it'd make it a lot cheaper because you'd hire a car and do a bunch of stuff and share everything. But
you share the experience as well. Share the experience,
yeah. I'm someone that loves sharing things with the people I love. So I think that'd be an amazing trip to do at some point. Yeah. Peru in general was a highlight. Yeah. For multitude of reasons. Anyone who is thinking about going to Machu Picchu, make sure you spend a couple of weeks in Peru because it was mind-blowing. The food is amazing. The people are incredibly nice and welcoming, and it was like that everywhere. Like people talk about South America and being dangerous. I didn't get to Rio, but I didn't feel unsafe once. And there were plenty of times where we were like walking around by myself at night and like in cities and not in cities and things like that, and I just felt safe the whole time.
It's positive. Do you think up north it's a bit more like Colombia around that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Venezuela is pretty cactus at the moment, I think. Yeah. And I think Brazil, certain parts of Brazil is pretty gnarly, but like I heard things about Chile and Bolivia, which kind of made me a little worried, but nothing but smiles and warm greetings, which was nice. But Peru, we jumped on the Peru hot bus, which is a bit of a plug, but it was kind of Kentucky in a way where it took you a certain way, but you could jump on and jump off of the bus in terms of stay.
Right. So it's like a busted out type thing.
Yeah.
You find somewhere you like, you can just stay for as long as you want.
And you just stay there for as long as you want, and then you just got to change your itinerary online. And the crew we met in Lima, which is where we got on it, like the 10 or 12 of us that were all together on the bus at the start, we ended up getting to know each other really well, and we kind of had a little travelling party for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Nice. Where we'd lose a couple of people, or we'd and then like a couple of people would come back, and then
catch up with them again.
And we'd catch up with them again. So
nice.
So that was really cool. I had a little community to travel with in Peru. That was a big highlight, and just the food is amazing.
That's one of the best things I love about travel.
Yeah.
I love the food. I love the drink.
Yeah,
it's one of the things.
I drink red wine now. Fun fact.
Oh, good. Finally.
I haven't dabbled much over the last few years, but I dabbled a bit being away.
Proud of you.
So that was pretty cool. I'm going to give you one more highlight. The highlight I had was just consuming and creating content.
Good one.
I never give myself enough time to sit and read or sit and write. And one of the things that this trip's taught me is that, like, I love writing, I love reading, I love listening to things, but I need to give myself more time to do it. So like yesterday, I had a few things I needed to do, but I was in a writing mood, and I ended up writing like 4 or 5 blog posts that I've had in my head, and just
once those creative juices are flowing.
Yeah, and I think it's a lesson for me just to let myself do what I want to do. So like I didn't end up reading that many books over there. I only read 3 books, but
you listened to a few as well.
I listened to maybe 4 or 5, and jumped in, like dove into a lot of new podcasts and things like that. Cool. So yeah, that was a highlight. Nice. The last highlight was coming home to you and KP and all the amazing people in my life. It's like, I think I wrote about it in one of my weekly emails, but having that time away makes you realise what's really important.
100%. Makes you grateful for the things you have, and you appreciate what you have coming home to. Yeah,
and I think it's like KP and I have been together for a long time, but it was really nice to like properly miss each other. Like we've probably never spent more than 10, 12 days apart.
Yeah, definitely.
Over the last 9 years, or 8 years, 12 months apparently, because I wasn't here for our anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, cop that. Well, 8 years, 13 months now, far out. But having that ability to miss each other, I think, is really, really important. And like it just freshens you up from a relationship point of view, from a work point of view, to like I'm so excited to get back to footy on Saturday. Like, whereas I probably fell out of love with footy a little bit over the last couple of years in certain times, just because it was a constant and there was never that break from it.
I concur with all that. I think giving yourself some time off to gain a fresh perspective, to you forcing yourself to miss something, and you find out that you find out what you actually miss and what you don't miss. Definitely. And then when you come back, you can omit those things that you don't miss, or not give them as much.
And you
time,
can,
and you can.
Yeah, I looked at it as kind of like a stock take of my life.
Yeah.
Cool. You figure out what's going on, what's not. What do I want to be doing that I'm not?
Yeah. What do you want to change?
I read one of the books I read, or one of the documents I read that one of our business coaches shared to us was about habits and creating a life plan that centered around what will drive you and what will serve you long term. And that's it. And if just go on holiday, just get out of the normal day to day, and it just freshens you up. And I'm so excited to dive into work and everything we do at Virtus, and everything I do outside of Virtus. Like I think that's going to be a big driver for me for the next 6 to 9 months, is just diving into work and doing the things I love day to day, and that's it. Yeah, mate, thanks for the chat.
It was awesome.
It's been fun. I after we came down from Machu Picchu, I was walking along the railway and I was in like a really good mood. Like I was just like top, like I felt like I was on top of the world. So it was a 10K walk. For anyone who wants to do Machu Picchu, you don't have to spend heaps of money on a trek. We got a bus to a train station where we walked 10Ks along the railway to get to the town at the bottom of Machu Picchu, which is an amazing town, Aguas Calientes. And then we did the trek the next morning. and then we had to walk back along the train track to get a bus back, which costs like Machu Picchu all up would have cost me about 80-90 Australian dollars,
Yes.
including the night in the Aguas Calientes. So
Wow.
if a travel agent's trying to sell you it for like $1,000, don't do it. I think I talked about that in my little thing, but I went for a run. I ran for like 5Ks, and then I was walking after my run, and I went, you know what? I kind of feel like recording a little podcast. So at the end of at the end of this episode, I'll plug on the 6-minute ramble I had at the bottom of Machu Picchu, talking about the experience and what it was like and things like that. If you enjoy it, yell out, and I'll maybe do a couple of more little ones. If you don't enjoy it, that's fair enough. I haven't actually listened to it, so I don't know what it's going to be, but
it could be absolute rubbish.
There's a good chance it's rubbish and I'm talking gibberish, but that's okay. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy it, subscribe, post about it, all that kind of stuff. Share it to your friends. Hey legends, welcome to a special episode of the Virtus Performance Podcast. This is a quick little bonus episode for you guys. I've just finished, or just got to the bottom of Machu Picchu. So we got up nice and early this morning and hiked up the mountain from Aguas Calientes, which is the little town at the bottom, and hiked up to basically straight up through the jungle up to Machu Picchu, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world, and words can't describe how incredible it was. It was game changing in terms of just I got no words. The valleys and the canyons and the mountains around it just provide this perfect backdrop for this city that was built like 600 years ago. So it was pretty incredible. It's something that I would highly recommend anyone do. It's not super easy to get to, being in the middle of South America, but as we realized over the last couple of days, all of the $3,000 and $2,000 trips are definitely not the only way to go. We hired some transport in town in Cusco, which is one of the biggest cities in Peru. We got a bus here, bought our tickets, climbed up. Probably only ended up costing us like $80 to do it all, so plus a $12 hostel. So absolutely incredible. Would highly recommend it to anyone. It's definitely ace to tick it off the bucket list. It was pretty cool to sit at the top after our tour. We got a guide. We got an English-speaking guide, Louise, who was an absolute champion. We sat at the top. Well, I sat at the top after our tour and meditated for about 20 minutes, and it was bliss. It was very magical. So I'm stoked I was able to tick that off my list, and to be honest, there's a good chance I'll be back at some point. It's a pretty crazy adventure, this part of the world, so having a magical time a couple of weeks into our trip. One of the, I guess something that I was thinking about, it's probably a little theory or a little analogy I've been working on. I'm sure someone's thought of it before, but it's about hiking, and I think hiking is very, very similar to life in that you have a prolonged period of, like with hiking, you set your goal, right? You set your target destination, you set where you want to end up, chuck a bag on your back, and tick the legs over for an extended period of time. So you know where you're going. So you've already planned out the route for most people, for most hikes. You'll have a fair idea of the direction you need to take. But then you have a prolonged period of walking, running, jogging, marching, depending on how you hike and the speed at which you hike. And I think that hiking is a very simple metaphor for life, in the fact that you set a target as to something you want to achieve, and then you work really hard and you put in a lot of effort, and you keep working hard and you keep ticking the legs over, even though it's hard and even though it hurts, even though there's struggle, because you know there's light on the other side, or in this case, you know there's a peak of a mountain you're going to get to, and you're going to be able to stop, take a breath, and enjoy the fruits of your labor, so to speak. So I think if we look for, and if we're talking about happiness, for example, it's about to get really loud. A train's about to go past me. But if we take happiness, for example, I think if there's the fresh sounds of the Peruvian rail system. I think if we kind of just focus on the peak and being at the peak and being at the top and being happy and that'll do. Train's gone. Just the path that we've got to walk from one little station to the town at the bottom of Machu Picchu is on a train line. So yeah, ticking the legs over another walk. But what was I saying? Yeah, I think if we focus all of our energy on the joy and the happiness of the peak, we tend to miss the importance of the struggle or the importance of the hard work, the importance of putting in that extra effort to get to where we want to get to. Life's like 90% hard work and struggle and 10% bliss. And I truly believe that. So yeah, just a little metaphor for you guys, a little analogy. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of this short little episode. If you enjoy it, I started off with the podcast with a couple of little Be Better episodes, which were like 5-10 minutes. So if you guys enjoy this, I'll send me a message or send me an email. Subscribe, do all that kind of stuff, and I'll keep doing them on top of the weekly episodes. Have an amazing day. Cheers to you all. Adios.